Tonight on ESPN.
Confrontation looms near. There have been many battles waged here. It is a chance at revenge and redemption, a chance to return to past glory, a chance to erase decades of futility, and to begin again. It is a neighborhood fight between two longtime rivals. But controversy surrounds this battle. It is a lifetime of emotional and physical investment, reduced to 60 minutes on a football field. It is a time for the leaders to be heard. Next.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to NFL Tonight. Along with Merrill Hodge, I'm Mark Malone. Less than 24 hours now before kickoff in Week 6 of the National Football League. And, Merrill, some very, very important divisional matchups this weekend.
Boy, huge if you're talking about the NFC West. And, you know, there's also some teams looking for their first win this year, Mark.
And we will document those along with all the other teams around the league, at least those few that are undefeated so far. But we first start in San Francisco, or with the 49ers, I should say. They are still reeling from their shocking collapse against the Buffalo Bills a week ago, and they head to the Crescent City to face the NFC West co-leader, New Orleans. Despite the Saints' heartbreaking loss in New England last Sunday, Mike Ditka's team at least proved that they can compete with one of the league's top teams. But in order to make any noise in the West, they must reverse their domination in this series, losing 27 of the last 35 meetings. With more on the matchup, we check in with Melissa Stark.
I think it's great that we play the 49ers right now. I mean, we both lost games. We both are pissed off at each other. We both are upset that we lost, and this is a division game, so this is a major game.
Until you beat them, you're still just going to be second rate.
I would say it's pretty much like our Super Bowl.
They may have a 3-1 record, but the Saints say playing the Niners Sunday will be the true test of just how good Mike Ditka's team is. One thing they already know, the Niners will not take them lightly, as they may have done in the past.
I think they used to come to New Orleans and feel that, hey, we can just come in here and get a win and chalk that one up. But I think, from what I'm hearing, I think they know that they're going to be in for a ball game Sunday.
Nobody's giving us too much credit right now. We have beaten St. Louis, we've beaten Carolina, but if we can beat a team like this, I think, you know, we've taken the next step.
Even if the Saints miss a step, they already have exceeded many preseason expectations. In fact, some publications predicted New Orleans wouldn't win this many games all season.
I'm not surprised at the Saints beginning. I mean, they have a lot of good players that I played with for 5 years and some young guys they brought in.
They didn't want to say it, but I think they're surprised enough. Because, you know, a lot of people think the Saints are, you know, the bottom, well, actually the dwellers in the cellar. So, you know, the Saints are starting to move up, and we're going to keep climbing.
When I asked Drakeford if the Saints were a legitimate 3-1 team, he laughed and said, yes, we've played 4 NFL teams, and just because they've been some sorry teams, that's not our fault. If the Saints beat the 49ers Sunday, they'll have nothing to apologize for. In New Orleans, I'm Melissa Stark, ESPN.
Melissa, the 49ers have been the preeminent home team in the 1990s, and while they haven't been bad at anything during this span, they haven't been as good on the road. 10 games worse, in fact. The passing game has fallen off nearly 30 yards per game when they are traveling. And speaking of passing games, Merrill, let's talk about that New Orleans Saints passing game. Danny Warfel at the controls, they've been pretty efficient, and I would imagine that they will try to attack Antonio Langham, the corner that played so badly against the Buffalo Bills last weekend.
Well, Mark, Antonio Langham and Darnell Walker both had a pretty rough outing against the Bills. And if you're the Saints, you do have to attack them and see what the 49ers do. Do they do some coverage things to help them and the wide receivers on the outside? If that's the case, you got to move into the slot. Cam Cleveland, the tight end for the New Orleans Saints, is a huge tight end at the slot position. He's a guy 6'4". I stop it right here because look at the hands. Cam Cleveland does a nice job on a safety, swatting him, getting inside position, gets the touchdown. Later in the game, they try to match him up against a big linebacker. It's highlighted here. Cam Cleveland still with the ability to get inside. This guy is 6'4", 270 pounds. There he gets the first down. And if you look at the 49ers and who they were going to match him up against, it would have to be Tim McDonald. Now, Tim McDonald is a safety who will come up, and he does a nice job against the run support. He's not a great cover guy. If you put a linebacker on him, you can see Cam Cleveland can beat that. So what you have to do is find some success with those slot routes, because if you do that, then you force them out of double coverage. You have to come into that slot route. Then you can find that one-on-one coverage on the outside and see if that you can expose Antonio or Darnell.
And when you look at the Saints' pass defense, they rank 29th in the National Football League. They have struggled, but they're second in the league in interceptions with 9. How will they try to defend that multiple wide receiver set of the Niners?
Well, Mark, with our pre-play, I think we ought to go back and look at what the Bills did last week in their secondary. The secondary, they kind of work their coverages from inside out. The first thing we want to take a look at, though, is the wide receivers of the 49ers and their routes. The slot guys are going to run a corner and a post. Outside receivers are going to run slant routes. Now let's work on the safeties over the slots. What they wanted to do is jam the receiver. Once they jammed it, then they wanted to look at the slot receiver on the outside, the slants coming in. The corners ran with those outside receivers, and then they jumped to the deep routes of the slot receivers, getting double coverage. So what you had is you had all the slants taken care of, you had the deep routes doubled. Steve Young had no place to throw the football. Now if we're going to go take a look at the real players running this, you'll see the coverage from the inside. You see the slants going inside and then trying to work backs out. Well, there's the defenders jumping those routes, giving Steve Young absolutely no place to run the football, forcing him to scramble. Now, Steve Young can scramble, and he does a nice job of that, but anytime you have success against a team like the 49ers, everybody thinks everybody ought to do that exact same thing. Well, you have to look at two things. The Bills had 2 weeks to prepare for this football team. The Saints only have a week. Now you have to look at where the Saints' strengths are. It's in their defensive line. Now, Jamie Brown's had his first start at left tackle last week. Well, he's going to be challenged this week, and he knows if they're going to put pressure on, the 49ers are going to come over there and help him, whether they slide protection, a back, or a tight end. When you do that, you may expose some other areas of their offensive line. So that could be the center and the guard gap area. With your defensive line, Steve Young's always under the center. If you can get pressure at him very quick, that will help, because eventually those receivers are going to get open. But if you can get pressure on Steve Young and you can hit him, that is your best way to attack the 49er offense.
And I think you have to do that without losing track of Garrison Hurst, because if you allow the San Francisco 49ers balance, run and pass, they're unstoppable.
Absolutely.
No doubt about it. Well, to balance out our Week 6 coverage of Sunday's matchups, we have NFL Tonight reporters deployed around the league. In the Queen City, the 1-3 Bengals will be looking to claw their way back into the AFC Central race when they host the Steelers. Anthony Munoz has the story from Cincinnati as we begin our NFL Tonight whip around.
Mark, Neil O'Donnell isn't the only one looking for a little payback this Sunday. Safety Myron Bell might have a little more to prove than O'Donnell. After 4 years with the Steelers, they asked him to take a pay cut this offseason. Instead, he opted for Cincinnati, and he gets his first start of the season against his former team. The Steelers have watched Cordell Stewart struggle the first 3 weeks, but went back to the basics in their last game, which meant plenty of Jerome Bettis. After 138 yards against the Seahawks, look for more of the same. The bus is revved up and looking forward at a chance at the NFL's worst-ranked defense.
8 years ago, the Redskins came to Veterans Stadium for a game against the Eagles with serious playoff implications. Buddy Ryan's Brawlers put 9 Redskins in the hospital in that game in what became known as the Body Bag Bowl. Sunday's contest between the 0-5 Eagles and the 0-5 Redskins may be known as the Paper Bag Bowl for the number of fans hiding their heads in shame. Both teams are really embarrassed that the season has come down to this, a fight for dignity in a rivalry that once meant something. For Washington, Norv Turner is sticking with the struggling quarterback Trent Green, but Ray Rhodes has benched Bobby Hoying and will start Rodney Peete, who is 3-0 as a starter lifetime against the Skins.
It's Saturday night. Do you know where your quarterback is? Carolina's Kerry Collins didn't make the trip to Dallas after telling his coach during the week he's not into it. Steve Berline gets the start. So this time, tranquility is on the Cowboys' side, and turmoil is across the line. And that's a quarterback who's still hanging in there, Mark Malone.
All right, thank you very much, Hammer. And Steve Berline at quarterback, is that going to force offensive coordinator Gil Haskell to have to change up what they do offensively to accommodate the 12-year vet?
No, Mark, I think that they stay with the same thing offensively, but I think what this gives Carolina is an emotional lift. I think people believe in Steve Berline, and they respect Steve Berline, and that's ultimately the best. And when you haven't won a football game, you need something. And I think Steve Berline could give them that spark they need, and let's not forget, he knows the Dallas Cowboys pretty well, and Dave Campbell's defense, so that might be an advantage for this game, this team, in looking for their first win.
And you know what? None of this is going to matter unless that Carolina defense can stop the run. They haven't done that very well. Chris Warren, Emmitt Smith, both coming off 100-yard games. I would expect to see a lot of that in this game. Well, speaking of running backs, well, the league-leading rusher, Terrell Davis, he's out-rushed 26 of 29 teams. A preview of Denver and Seattle, along with much more on NFL Tonight.
Brees Hall. Brees Hall. He's had 18 carries for 151.
Third down and goal. And Bledsoe throws, and at the 1-yard line hits Coach, who gets into the end zone. Touchdown.
Now through Monday at Zales, we're having a diamond sale where you can get up to 50% off and more throughout the entire store. Like this 6-carat diamond bracelet for just $12.99. Now through Monday at Zales.
The answers are many. Every time the visiting homemaker service knocks on the door, you are there to help. You bring healthcare, friendship, and so much more. The NFL, that's me, Michael Strahan of the New York Giants, and a United Way, that's you. We're working together, making our communities better for all of us. The NFL, the United Way, and you. The power of teamwork.
Bobby Boucher was a lonely water boy.
Smelled like you could use a shower, Stinky.
Constantly tormented by everyone.
I'm the water boy, dude.
But now...
Stop making fun of me. Play football for this team.
Everyone...
Oh, please don't hurt me.
...will feel his pain.
You are so sexy.
Adam Sandler.
There's something wrong with his medulla oblongata.
The Water Boy. Rated PG-13. Starts Friday, November 6th.
It is a test, not just of strength, but of the power of the mind. And if you complete the journey, you will be changed forever. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Now through Monday at Zales, we're having a diamond sale where you can get up to 50% off and more throughout the entire store. Like this half-carat pendant and earring set for just $2.99. Now through Monday at Zales.
Your primetime NFL lineup looks like this. Sunday night, Danny Kanell and the G-Men play host to former Giants coach Dan Reeves and the Atlanta Falcons, Mike Patrick, Joe Theismann, and Paul McGuire, 8:15 Eastern on ESPN. Monday night features two of the game's premier quarterbacks. Dan Marino and the 3-1 Dolphins head to Jacksonville to take on Mark Brunell and the undefeated Jags, 8 o'clock Eastern on ABC. Well, still trying to dry out from last Sunday's deluge at Arrowhead, the Kansas City Chiefs take their 4-1 record to Foxborough, where they face the 3-1 Patriots, tied for first place in the AFC East. Sunday's game begins a 4-game rip for New England that will include 3 games with division foes, the Jets, Miami, and Indy. Just outside of Boston, Sean Salisbury is standing by with the latest on this matchup.
Thank you, Mark. I'm at the Chiefs Hotel just outside of Boston, and surprise, surprise, inclement weather has followed the Chiefs around for the 3rd time in 4 weeks. The big news is the loyal Marty Schottenheimer and his decision to start a healthy Elvis Gerbach at quarterback despite the success of backup Rich Gannon. You remember he made the same decision prior to last year's loss to the Denver Broncos. As for the weather, rain is expected throughout Saturday, tailing off into Sunday, but this is Foxborough, so you could expect a soggy surface. And since the offense knows where they're going, give them the early advantage. And Mark, you might see some big plays in this game on Sunday.
Sean, it wouldn't surprise me a bit, but when you look at Gerbach starting after a 5-week absence, you have to ask yourself, is he rusty? Remember him coming off the bench last year in that playoff game. How will this offensive scheme change? Rich Gannon's more of a scrambler. Yep. What will they be able to do with Gerbach in the lineup?
You know what? I don't think a lot of things change offensively. Formations may change. Now, Rich Gannon is a guy who scrambles. They like to get him out of the pocket, throw the deep ball. Elvis is a pocket passer, and what they try to do is create 4 and 5 wide receiver sets, finding matchups. Well, you got Ty Law at the corner for the New England Patriots. Andre Rison. It's going to be a heck of a battle to watch. So now you got to find some better matchups. Well, Tony Gonzalez in the slot, I think that's a matchup where you're going to see Elvis go to a lot. Here he is in the slot. He's a guy that's hard to match up, whether it's a safety or a corner. Here it's a safety. It's tough to cover. He's a big target. You get the ball to him quick. He has the ability to break tackles. Here at the tight end position, still you can get him down the field, and here you can match him up against linebackers. Here he catches the football, but it's from the end zone in the slow motion. You can see the chemistry that's being built here with Elvis Gerbach and Gonzalez. He turns around and makes the nice catch. He's also a guy who's given Elvis Gerbach kind of a relief guy. He's a guy that Elvis has looked for when nobody's open. He's kind of his security blanket, and Elvis has been rusty. And that would be the key part of maybe Tony Gonzalez being a bigger part of this and finding him quick to try to get a rhythm, because you remember him in the playoff game, he just wouldn't pull that trigger. So here's a game where he might be a little hesitant before he pulls the trigger.
And Drew Bledsoe's gotten off to a good start, but I would look for Robert Edwards. He's gotten better every game, 4.2 yard per carry average, 4 touchdowns, going against the Kansas City defense that struggled against the run. Well, the Tennessee Oilers are off to a terrible 1-3 start. They need a win this Sunday when they visit division foe Baltimore. Both teams are coming off a bye week, but both are heading in different directions on offense. Baltimore has found consistent play at quarterback with Eric Zier and a big-time running back in Priest Holmes, who ran for 173 yards against Cincinnati 2 weeks ago. Tennessee hasn't yet established a downfield passing game and are 29th in the league in rushing. In fact, with 43 more attempts, over twice as many as Priest Holmes, Eddie George has only gained 23 more yards than Holmes, 199 to 222, and Holmes has found the end zone more than George via the run as well. So, Merrill, what's going on here in Tennessee? I mean, you wouldn't think that all of a sudden a great caliber back like George just lost it somehow. No. Are they approaching offense in a different manner, and is that affecting Eddie George?
Yeah, Mark, I think that is. The change of philosophy has affected Eddie George. You know, going into this game, they went out and they got Thigpen, they got all these receivers to help Steve McNair open up and throw the football. But what they wanted to do with Eddie George is use him at the end of the football games to win football games. Because if you remember last year, they pounded Eddie, ran play action. Well, they wanted to open it up. When you do that, you bring all these personnel. It's almost like starting over. And this philosophy change has not only has Eddie George off balance, but the entire offense, because they really haven't even went deep. I mean, I know Yancey Thigpen complained that we're throwing too many hitch routes. Let's spread it out. Let's go deep. I think once they can do that, to develop that chemistry with quarterback and receiver, they will open up, and then Eddie George can come back and do the things that they wanted to do from the very beginning.
They went out and got a lot of weapons. Thigpen, Willie Davis, Chris Sanders, Derek Mays. I mean, a lot of weapons, not enough footballs. In fact, their #1 pick, Kevin Dyson, has yet to catch a football, and they need to get that corrected as well. Well, we still got more to come here on NFL Tonight. It's not hard to find Denver's Ed McCaffrey. Last year, he was indoctrinating Seattle rookie Sean Springs. We'll have a preview of that rematch. And the Falcons have already given up 18 sacks this season. Chris Chandler hold up against the Giant pass rush. That and more when we come back.
I've been the New York Giants public address announcer for 42 years.
Here you are, Mr. Shepard.
Thank you, Mary Johnson. But I've never seen anything like this NFL.com. Team reports, chat sessions, and best of all, oh, excuse me for a moment. Cannell to Callaway, first down, Giants. Real-time, play-by-play. Ah, technology.
Do you have trouble driving in the rain? Is the glare unbearable at night? That's why STP created Vision Blade glass treatment. Vision Blade forms an invisible barrier that repels water and virtually eliminates glare. It applies in minutes, and it lasts for 6 months. This muddy water sticks to the glass on the untreated side. But with Vision Blade, the dirt and grime sheets away, and your view remains clear. And now Vision Blade is available in 2 sizes to meet all drivers' needs. See what you've been missing with Vision Blade.
The Atlanta Falcons take on the New York Giants on ESPN Sunday Night Football.
I have to tell you something. This Giants